Hey everyone, we're diving into a topic today that I think a lot of us have experience with in one way or another.
Yeah, for sure.
Toxic relationships.
Definitely.
It's something that you reached out and you wanted to learn a bit more about,
Right.
and it really is one of those things that whether we've experienced it personally or we've seen it with friends or family or even just in like
You news.
the news, the news,
It's everywhere.
it's sadly kind of a common thing, and so the source that you sent focuses a lot on the how-to, the what we do about it part,
Right.
which I think is really
Yeah, that's where the rubber hits the road.
exactly, yeah.
Like, what do we actually do?
Yeah, it's not enough to just like identify it, but what do we do?
Yeah.
And so that's what we're going to dive into today and get our experts' take on it as well.
Yeah, I think, a lot of times people, when they hear the term toxic relationship, they think about these really extreme cases.
Right.
But really, toxicity can exist on a spectrum. It's not always these, really dramatic blowouts or anything. It can be these sort of subtle, insidious things that kind of chip away at you over time.
Right. It's more about like the overall effect it's having on you. It's not
Exactly.
necessarily
Yeah.
one particular.
Content of the argument.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The pattern.
Yeah.
Right. And so let's talk about that. Like, what are some of those red flags? The source lays out a bunch of them, but
Yeah.
let's make them real for people.
Yeah, for sure. So one of the big ones is negativity,
Yeah.
constant criticism.
Yeah.
So imagine, like you said, you got a promotion, right?
Yeah.
And you're excited, you want to celebrate, and this person, instead of being happy for you, they find some way to turn it into a negative thing.
Oh, yeah.
They say, oh, well, now you're going to be working even more hours, or,
Yeah.
oh, they're just trying to get more out of you, that kind of thing.
Right. Right.
And that can be really deflating.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Another big one is emotional drain. So the source talks about walking on eggshells, which I think a lot of us can relate to, but
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
take it a step further. It's not just about being careful not to upset the other person.
Right.
It's about this constant feeling of anxiety.
Right.
Like you're always waiting for the other shoe to drop. You're
Yeah.
hypervigilant. You're always on edge.
Right. It's like your nervous system is just completely fried from
Yes,
just waiting for the next,
exactly. And that takes a toll over time.
Yes, for sure.
Another one that the source mentions is a lack of respect and
Mm.
support.
Yeah.
So, this might look like your opinions being constantly dismissed,
Oh.
or, you're talking about something important and they just kind of interrupt you or change the subject.
Right. Right.
They're just
yeah.
not really there for you when you need them.
Yeah. And it's almost like they're subtly
It is, yeah.
trying to
Yeah.
undermine you or like,
Ex-
take away your
It's a form of invalidation.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
And then, of course, there's control and demeaning behavior.
Yes. That's a big one.
This is a really big red flag.
Yeah.
This is where you start to see things like isolation from friends and family,
Mhm.
or, constantly putting down your choices,
Right.
making you feel bad about the things that you like or the things that you want to do.
It's almost like they're chipping away at your
Yes.
self-esteem.
Exactly. It's about power and control.
Right.
And that's never a good sign.
No, it's
No.
definitely not.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about the red flags, we've identified them,
Right.
and now let's talk about what do we do about it?
Right.
And the source, I thought this was really helpful, talks about setting boundaries.
Yes. Boundaries are crucial.
Yeah.
A lot of people think that setting boundaries is being mean or selfish.
Right.
But it's actually an act of self-respect. It's about communicating your needs and what you're willing to tolerate.
Right.
And, it doesn't have to be a big dramatic confrontation. It can be as simple as saying, hey, I need some space right now.
Right.
Or, I'm not comfortable talking about this right now.
And it's really important to be consistent with those boundaries, right?
Yes, consistency is key.
Because otherwise they'll just keep pushing.
Exactly. If you give in every time they push, they're going to learn that they can just keep pushing.
Right, right.
And so it's really important to stand your ground.
And the source also talks about not going through this alone.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important to remember that
Absolutely.
we have people who love us, who care about us,
Yes.
and we don't have to suffer in silence.
Reach out to your support system.
Yeah.
Talk to your friends, talk to your family, talk to a therapist.
Yeah, professional help can be so valuable in these situations.
Absolutely. A therapist can give you an objective perspective.
Right.
They can help you develop coping mechanisms.
Yeah.
And they can just be a supportive presence in your life.
And they can also, help you to sort of see the situation for what it is.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when we're in it, it's hard to be objective.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And the source also talks about self-care.
Yes, self-care is essential.
And I thought that was really interesting because sometimes it feels a little selfish
Right.
to be like focusing on yourself when you're in this difficult relationship.
Right. But you can't pour from an empty cup.
Right.
You have to take care of yourself first. If you're not taking care of yourself, you're not going to be able to show up for anyone else.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So make sure you're getting enough sleep, you're eating well, you're exercising,
Right.
you're doing things that bring you joy,
Yes.
that fill you up.
All those things that, kind of get neglected when you're in a difficult situation.
Yeah.
And the source doesn't shy away from the hard stuff.
Right.
It also talks about having to evaluate, like, is this relationship even?
Right. Is this relationship salvageable?
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
this something that can be fixed?
Right.
And, there's no easy answer to that question.
Right.
But some things to consider are, is this person willing to change?
Right.
Are they taking responsibility for their actions? Are you seeing any progress?
Yeah.
Or are you just stuck in the same cycle over and over again?
Right. Right.
And if it's the latter, then you might have to start thinking about,
What are your options?
what are your options? Yeah.
And sometimes the healthiest option is to walk away.
Right.
It's not easy,
No.
but sometimes it's necessary.
Yeah.
You deserve to be in a relationship that's healthy,
Yes.
that's supportive, that
Right.
brings you joy, not pain.
And that can be with a romantic partner, it could be with a friend.
It could be any relationship.
I remember, yeah.
Any relationship.
Yeah.
That's toxic.
And it's tough. It's hard to. It is
Come to that realization. And sometimes even harder to
act on it.
act on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's so worth it
It is.
to protect your
well-being,
well-being, your mental
peace of
health,
mind. Yeah.
all of that.
Yeah, for sure. And the source ends on a hopeful note that even after a toxic relationship,
Yes,
healing and growth are possible,
absolutely.
which I think is really important to remember.
Yes, you can come out of this stronger.
Yeah.
You can learn from your experience,
Yeah.
and you can create healthier relationships in the future.
Yeah, and maybe even recognize those red flags sooner.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And avoid getting into those situations in the first place.
Well, this has been really, really insightful.
Mm.
Really appreciate you breaking all this down for us.
My pleasure.
And I think for you listening, this has given us a lot of really practical tools to
Yeah.
identify those toxic behaviors,
Yeah.
set boundaries, and really start advocating for your own well-being. You have the power to choose who you let into your life.
Yeah. So powerful. So what's one small step that you can take today based on what we've talked about?
Something that you can do to start creating a healthier, happier life for yourself.
I think that's a great place to leave it. So keep exploring this topic. And thanks so much for listening.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll see you in the next deep dive.
See you next time. Bye.
Bye.